Hello everyone, here's another update video from the big trip number 2. I just landed in Missouri. I'm going to a community called Dancing Rabbits. I just spent 2 months at a community called Pachamama in Costa Rica near Nosara is the city there. My intention for going there is kind of the same as going to all these intentional communities, really just to learn what I like and what I don't like in these communities, what makes them work well, so that eventually I can find one and live in it and know and have a better idea of what I'm looking for. This community, Pachamama, is 25 years old. It was, I don't know the history that well, but it started with a spiritual leader named Tio Haru, who was a follower of Osho. I spent 2 months there as a work exchanger. There's about 120 to 300 people there at a given time, depending on the season. And when I left a couple days ago, it really was really going into the low season. Beautiful community, beautiful layout, buildings in the jungle, monkeys, zapotes I think they were called, iguanas, crazy insects, mango trees, huge trees, vines, rivers, starting to go into the rainy season, so getting really rainy, really just like perfect weather, warm. Yeah, I love the architecture and just like the layout of how they built the community. I really felt like it brought people together, and that people would go to the restaurant, leave that, have to pass the cafe, which is kind of like the main social area, and usually just stop by there. So the way the community guided people to walk, I felt like that kind of brought them together. And they had beautiful venue spaces like the Osho Hall, where they do meditation every day, Terra Garden and Bamboo Chala, these other spaces for workshops and retreats and things. Lots of them. The housing, so they had camping and tents. They had little casitas, which are very simple structures that I stayed in, to upgraded casitas, bungalows that were more closed off. They had a kitchen and a fan, all the way to AC rooms that are kind of almost like a hotel room, that are in a duplex thing, to houses, basically just depending on how much you want to spend and how long you're there and your comfortability needs. My casita was really far from what was called downtown, where the cafe and the restaurant, I had to walk 10 minutes just one way every day, which eventually I started to like, walking through the jungle. And then about a 5 or 10 minute drive away from the main area, still on the property, down to the place by the river, they called it, where there was their Maloka and other outdoor venues and things that they had events at. Beautiful area. They had an internet cafe they called the Internest. Really loved that name. They had a bus that would go to the beach once or twice a day, and it was about 5 chocos. So when you get there, you exchange dollars for their currency, which is called chocos, and it's $1 for 1 choco. And that's how you buy things at the shop and the restaurants, and gas, different things. So I did a work exchange where you can either work at recycling, which I did. I worked at Wild Treat Cafe, in the Jungle Shop for a little bit, which is kind of their little shop / grocery store. Eco, which is their garden. You could work in the kitchen, or there's also special other ones, working in the school, or event production. I really loved it. There was lots of interaction between everyone there at the community, and that's the residents, the work exchangers, and the visitors. And then the tikas, which are the names of, that's what the local people are called. I loved how the tikas were integrated into the community, and they're just kind of everywhere. I mean, they're basically just working there. I think there was 1 or 2 people in the community actually living there and participating, that were actually from Costa Rica. but it did seem like the Costa Ricans were more integrated into the community, which I didn't see that as much at other communities, which I liked. But just like I've seen sort of a segregation at other communities of like residents who have been there for years and like work exchangers and visitors, and then there was a really nice blend and mix. It seemed like everyone kind of interacted with each other. I really saw that I need to have, wherever I live in community, I need to have like a city or like a town nearby that I can sort of leave and go do other things and explore and meet other people and go to dances and just other things and get out, so that I'm not kind of just like stuck there at the community. Pachamama had lots of events, daily, weekly events. They had every day silent meditation in Osho Hall from 6:30 to 7:15 for 45 minutes. Where everywhere in the entire community was silent. And it was cool just how like everything kind of shuts down, gets quiet, and most people go to the meditation hall. And then also they had these buttons you could wear, like if you wanted, just like in everyday life at the community, if you wanted to be still in silence and interact with people, you could wear a button that just said silent. Thought that was nice. They had dances and sharing circles about once a week each, which was nice for me. I felt like I could have used a lot more. I mean, I'm used to dancing like 4 times a week minimum, and I just love sharing circles and having like check-ins. That was another kind of challenge I had, was that I come from a lot of these other communities where there's more meetings and ways of checking in with people, where like we had a work exchange meeting once a week, where like a lot of times we were just doing like a fun social thing together, like making chocolates, or having like dance or something. And I kind of wanted more meetings where we could like check in with each other and like see how people are doing, because there's a lot of people there at the community, and there was a lot of people that I didn't get to like hear from what was happening with them. And I think meetings are just sort of necessary to like get the feel for like, does anyone like need anything? Does anyone have any feedback? Is there any like way that we can improve? So yeah, just something I thought was sort of missing. Other workshops we do emotional release, which is like punching pillows and lots of like yelling and toning and shaking. Occasional sweat lodges we did. Lots of breath work, Wim Hof, and clarity breath work they do there, which is similar to like conscious connected breath or transformational. Which like almost every retreat there I think has some sort of incorporation of breath work. And actually every Thursday, one of the breathwork guides there, Yati, he holds a a Wim Hof session at his house where he has like a whole shala with a cold plunge and everything. So that was pretty cool. Lots of other just events that they do here and there, open mics, market, art, painting, ceramics, movie night. Yeah, I feel like when I say that, it sounds like there's a lot happening and like a lot to like opportunity to like develop relationships and intimacy with people. Although I felt like that was kind of one of the main things missing there, and that like every other community I went to, there was a board where they had like a calendar of the month, and every day had like 2 or 3 time slots, and you could sign up to host like any workshop and like share your gifts with everyone. So people were coming from all around the world, whether they were like a resident, work exchange, or visitor, and that they could sign up and host something. And so every day there was like workshops happening, and we're doing fun things together, challenging inner work together, and like really getting to know each other that way. Whether it was authentic relating or a sharing circle or some somatic thing, dance, that was just not allowed. And to use a space, you actually had to get permission. And I kind of got the sense that there was this rigidity of the people at Pachamama who lived there, that they were like, we've been here for 25 years and we have the way we do things, and we're not really open to changing them, and we're not really wanting to hear of how like things that you want. And when people come in, you kind of like have to be there for a long time before you can actually like host a workshop or a workshop. And for me, what I kind of got the sense from them is that was for liability, which makes sense. And all these other communities I've been to, like I didn't see like hardly any harm coming from people sharing workshops and their gifts. Yeah, I think one of the main things I really loved about Pachamama was the medicine. I haven't seen, like, they have lots of ceremonies, lots of medicine, and other communities I was at, like, barely had that or didn't. They work with aya, mushrooms, peyote. I did have some challenge. I mean, I come from where I come from, and we journey the way we do in ceremonies, and it's like you have the medicine, you go to your mat, and you have your journey, and it's not really interactive. And that's sort of what I like, and what I've found like the most healing. And that was in the ceremonies here at Pachamama. I didn't participate in any aya ceremonies, so I'm not sure how those go. But the ones that I were in were more interactive. There were electronic lights, there were a mic used with speakers, amplified sound, and that was hard, especially like people being interactive, and I kind of wanted there to be like less talking, and for me that just like brings me into the mind. And like I got the sense that sometimes the use of the medicine there was in a recreational sense. There was one night where they had what's called rock night, where peyote was served, and there's a DJ and a dance around a fire and people interacting. Just felt, recreational. Just not my preference. Yeah, but I loved all the different things they do there. They had Vision Quest. I did a retreat called Silent Music Prayer, really learning about singing in general and just like how to sing. Learning lots of new songs, and that like every song has its own spirit and its own energy. They have what's called River Live, where they have, so Pachamama they say is like undercover music school, and there's just like so much music talent there. And I got like guitar lessons from 2 people and voice lessons from 3 people, and just like really learned a lot more, and just felt like really inspired by all the people there and their talent. But River Live is this event where they have, they bring all those musicians and put them in the middle, and everyone dances around them in the maloka. And it's, with cacao, and it's just really great. I also had a mushroom ceremony there. It was a lot different than what I'm used to, and it was 12 hours from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And there was medicine served twice, so there's an initial dose and then another dose halfway through. What I really got from that was that I felt that I need to have safety in order to let go. And I saw like, I felt like I really needed to purge, and that I needed to vomit, and I felt like I couldn't do that just like on the ground next to me, because there was nothing to purge into. I didn't want to purge on the ground next to my neighbor. So I scooted to the end of my bed, and I was raising my hand trying to get the attention of one of the guides, and they just like did not see, and they were not seeing, and I just kind of was there, like sort of this feeling of being abandoned. And that was kind of another insight too, is that I survived even when I'm there with myself. And eventually I got them to come over. They got me a bag, and I found that, okay, when I know that I can call on the guide and they're there for me, and I have my bag to purge into, those 2 things I feel safe with, now I'm able to let go into the journey. And I also saw that, because I have Santa Cruz, my home with all my friends and family, that's like my safety net that I can always fall back into. And because I have that, I can reach out into the world and go to all these new places and take risks and meet new people, and step into the mystery and the uncertainty. And because I had Pachamama as my new home, that was my safety, and then I could venture out to Nosara and these other places and meet new people and take risks. And I saw that, like when I have a romantic, like main partner, that they become like a big safety net for me, and that I can go out and take risks and do all these things because I can like fall back into them, and that they will kind of catch me. And yeah, I talked about this in my last video, but just when there's a stimuli that I'm averse to, how do I use discernment in knowing whether I want to just like sit back and watch and notice and accept it and alchemize and breathe and just and like shake and be okay with it and be equanimous and just watch my response to it? Or do I move in and I make a change and express my desire and my preference in a way that hopefully doesn't have attachment? So I feel really good with where I am at with that, but still just like I am still trying to learn how to discern whether or not which to do. And when I was in ceremony, there was these people and they were having like a full-on conversation like 5 or 10 feet away from me. And at first I was like, wow, like this is really challenging for me. I'm wanting to like be here with the medicine and they're having a conversation. And I have aversion for it. And I was like, okay, let me just sit with this and be with it. It's just sound, it's just stimuli. And finally I was just like, I want to just express my desire. So I got up and I was able to walk over there and ask them to either be quiet or to take it outside. And they were like, oh, thank you. Actually, we don't want to be talking right now. So then they stopped. But I just saw, I was like, great, that was perfect. I got to like be with it for a second and then respond in a way that I wanted to. Another thing I kept repeating was that everything's welcome. And that, I just love that mantra. And that so for the last third of the ceremony, there was lots of dancing too. And I just really saw that I find myself in dance. I was really just able to see that. I won't say more about that. But I also was able to help out with a retreat called the Body Cleanse. That was part of my work exchange, where I got to learn a lot about like diet and nutrition and the body. And there was like 12 participants and they were fasting, drinking juices every day and all these supplements and doing enemas, which I didn't even know was a thing, with all these different things like coffee and garlic and salt water. And I learned that there were 6 types of hunger. There are 6 types of hunger: nutritional, empty stomach, thirst, variety, hypoglycemic, and emotional. And I saw that, like with this fasting, which I have a little experience with, that like I saw how when difficult emotions come up, how I can use food to like suppress them. And with like emotional hunger, I eat more than I need to because it's that. And that with fasting, there isn't that food to keep them down so all the emotions can come up. And that when I eat less, I actually have more energy. I also learned not to drink water for 20 minutes before or after eating or anywhere in between, that it actually dilutes the stomach acid and is not the best for digestion. I did another retreat called Inner Balance, where there was 3 pillars: therapy, meditation, and neuroplasticity. And the meditation I really loved. It was like very like non-dualistic emptiness, mindfulness. And the therapy was very like parts work oriented, even though he didn't use that language. And the neuroplasticity was kind of like Joe Dispenza type of like reprogramming the mind. And we used biofeedback with like these heart monitors from HeartMath that actually measure the heart-mind coherence and measure heart rate variability. So that was cool. And with the therapy, I really saw that, I have trauma in the past of being lonely when I was young. I'm not sure if it was from, when I was like a baby, or I remember being lonely in like middle school, high school at times, elementary school. And I saw that I have protective parts now that protect me from feeling that loneliness. And I have managers that manage my life in a way, where I'm going to events, I'm going and living in an intentional community, I'm going into romance, event organizer, promoter, always bringing people together. I do this in a way where it's managing my life in a way that I have people around me so that I don't have to feel lonely and that they don't have to feel lonely. And I also have firefighter parts that, like every night I had to leave the main downtown area and go back to my casita, into the jungle, into the darkness, alone, and like really had to be with just myself. And I have these firefighter parts that help me to not have to feel that loneliness, which were chocolate, tobacco, self-pleasure, and overeating. So yeah, my practice really now is like, how can I switch from this lonely feeling to alone, and like really feeling content in my aloneness. And yeah, I feel like I have a healthy balance with that, and I'm still something to look at and to investigate and to work on. I see myself as, one of my spirit animals is an ant, and that I love being with people all the time and working together. And part of the neuroplasticity reprogramming we did was like finding something in nature, and I thought of a bee, and that I want to reprogram myself into a bee where I can be at the hive with everyone and like be in community, and then I can take off into the world and like be alone and be content. One of the great things about Pachamama, they call it like an undercover music school, and that there's lots of people that have so much talent, and yeah, I just felt so inspired by it. Got to do lots of lessons. Some things I really had challenges with were that it was by far the most expensive community that I stayed in. I spent a lot of money just being there. I feel like they charge for a lot of things that other communities don't. Lots of events. Breakfast is kind of on our own. Dinner is just soup and rice, so if you want more, you have to pay for that. Going to the beach, gas. If you want a vehicle to rent, like I rented a bike, it was $7 a day, which is actually really cheap compared to other people. And that, when I converted my money into chocos, you're not able to get that back. You have to either spend it or to transfer it to someone. I wasn't able to have any visitors there. I really felt like they enforced gender roles, and that there was like men are like this and females are, and men are like this and women are like this. And it just seemed like a kind of lack of queer community there compared to what I'm used to. Also challenges with just substance use there. There were a couple nights where people were drinking. They were serving alcohol at the cafe. And people smoking cigarettes, weed, usually not in common spaces, but I could just like see that someone was altered if they were smoking weed, and I just kind of have an aversion for that. And just like a lack of touch and intimacy and cuddles and PDA. Like, I know that there's lots of romance and sexuality happening here at this community, and like I'm not really seeing it in common spaces. And I come from Tamara, where like that's like everywhere and really like sort of encouraged, or just welcome. And that I feel like a lot of these communities I go to, there's not really so much touch and intimacy, physical intimacy that I'm used to seeing, and that's really something that I love, and kind of have to like put a lot of effort into getting and bringing out in people. And I feel like a lot of people do that, and there's just like a lot of fear. I guess just to end on a happy note, some more insights I had, just what I found when I had like stimuli that I was averse to. I really found, like Adyashanti talks about how there's this silence and this stillness behind everything, and that if I'm in this meeting with someone and they're just like going on and on about something, and I'm just like, I can tap into that space at any time and meditate in any moment. And just, again, like one of the biggest things that I've learned from being in community with these people, one of my friends, Justin, in the community, he called everyone a mirror, and that he was like, we're all mirrors for each other. And I really have seen that, and that, when conflict arises, I can see how, this person's triggering me, and that's really just a mirror for my own trauma and my own wounding, and for me to look at. And just, building more compassionate, mindful communication skills and conflict resolution. feel like I've just been getting better and better with all of that. So yeah, that's about it. I'm going to Dancing Rabbit now. I'll be there for a month and check in with you all after. Thank you, love you.